Imagine you sit down at your computer, right? You're stressed, you're in a huge hurry, and you're ready to just fire off a dozen complex tasks to an autonomous AI agent.
Yeah, pretty much my typical Tuesday morning.
Right, exactly. But you open the application, and instead of, a blinking text cursor passively waiting for your frantic commands, the screen just goes dark.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then this geometric orb appears, and it just pulses slowly. And the AI absolutely refuses to accept a single prompt from you until you physically synchronize your breathing with its 12-second rhythm.
Which is, I mean, it's wild.
It is. So the question for us today is, are you looking at the profound future of human-computer interaction or the absolute worst business model in Silicon Valley?
It's a pretty jarring question, yeah. But honestly, it's exactly the one we have to answer today.
Right. So for you, our third venture capital partner listening in on this deep dive briefing, we are evaluating a pre-seed software opportunity that basically breaks every conventional rule of SaaS funding.
Yeah, it really does.
We are looking at a solo founder company called Triquetra, Inc., which is led by Paul W. Marshall. And look, my stance going into this evaluation is completely uncompromising. I believe we are witnessing the birth of something unprecedented.
I mean, you've been hyping this up all week.
Because it is. This is the iPhone moment for agentic software, but it's seamlessly combined with a world-building vision that is honestly as rich and vast as Tolkien's Middle-earth.
Okay, Tolkien and Elon Musk in one pitch.
Exactly, charting a technological path forward as breathtaking as Musk. Triquetra is handing us an entirely new vocabulary for interacting with machines, and I think we need to be the first money in before the rest of the market even adjusts its eyes to what's happening.
Which is, a beautiful soaring pitch, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But as the person who is responsible for the actual business end of our fund,
Here we go.
yeah, I have to drag us back down to earth.
Yeah.
I look at the source material, and I just see massive red flags. We have a fiduciary duty to ask the hard-nosed questions here.
Sure. Like,
Well, is this a real monetizable business?
yeah.
Is there an actual defensible technical moat, or is this just a highly conceptual art project?
I wouldn't call it an art project.
But we need to look critically at their technical foundations, right? We need to see if there's real backbone here and figure out if their recently filed non-provisional utility patent, CIP003, can actually hold up in court.
Right. And that is the mission for today's deep dive. We're laying all the source material out and then the product second. And Triquetra's core software product, it's called Quetra.
Right, Quetra.
And Quetra starts with this massive, deeply contrarian thesis. Their whole thing is, chat is not the interface.
Which is wildly contrarian when you consider the entire tech industry, from OpenAI to Google, has conditioned users over the last, 3 years? To interact with AI exclusively through text chat boxes.
I know, but think about why Marshall is rejecting it. For a simple chatbot, sure, text is fine. But we are moving into the era of agentic AI.
Right, the agents that do things for you.
Exactly. These are models that can read your email, book flights, execute code, basically spend your money. If you give an autonomous agent a sloppy, rushed text prompt, you are unleashing an incredible amount of risk.
No, you definitely cause a lot of damage by accident.
Right. A prompt box is a binary trap. You either do nothing or you hand over complete autonomy. So Quetra isn't a chatbot. It is a personal control layer.
A control layer, okay.
Yeah, it's designed to sit between human intent and machine execution.
And I guess that brings us back to your opening scenario, the whole breathing orb thing.
Yes, the Ma experience. You open the interface and you can't just type. You are met with this ambient visual pacing engine,
Which forces you to pause.
literally demands that you establish a baseline of attention before you generate a prompt. They took their prime directive, attunement precedes generation, and hard-coded it right into the user experience.
Look, I will admit the user interface philosophy is deeply thought out. I'll give them that. But if we pivot from the philosophy to the actual CTO report from July 4, 2026, the software architecture feels shockingly flimsy for this massive paradigm shift you're pitching.
Wait, flimsy how? I thought it was pretty efficient.
Well, it's incredibly lean. I mean, the tech stack is just Next.js, a fast API backend written in Python, SQLite for basic persistence, and it doesn't even run its own foundational models.
Well, yeah, he's routing inference through the Venice API.
Exactly. Marshall is a solo founder who basically leaned heavily on AI coding agents, like Replit, to build this.
Which is how everyone is building these days.
True, but he's basically using off-the-shelf, lightweight frameworks to build a house, and then outsourcing all the heavy AI brainpower to a third party. He doesn't actually own the underlying intelligence.
But doesn't that just prove his own point? The friction of building software has plummeted. I mean, one guy with a really clear vision can spin up a complex architecture in a fraction of the time it took, like 5 years ago.
It proves he can build fast, yes, but it also exposes a massive vulnerability. Well, if the code is just basic Python and a third-party API, where is the barrier to entry? A breathing orb is a neat UI trick, sure. But if Google or Microsoft decides they want a pre-chat control layer...
Yeah, you could just copy it.
Exactly.
Okay.
They have 10,000 engineers who can clone a Next.js interface over the weekend. If there's no technical barrier to entry, this isn't a company, it's just a feature on an existing OS.
Okay, that would be true if the moat was just the code, but it's not. The moat is structural, and it is entirely secured under that non-provisional utility patent you mentioned earlier.
Right, U.S. Utility Patent Application now, 19,734,975, CIP 003.
That's the one.
I actually spent a lot of time analyzing this document, and this is where we really need to evaluate the technical backbone of this whole pitch.
Yes, because the core claim of the patent centers on what they call a triadic harmony-calibrated artificial intelligence interface.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
It is, but the mechanism driving this is what they call the Marshall Triangle, and I am completely obsessed with the Marshall Triangle.
It is an interesting concept.
We have to explain how this works, because it's basically the defining visual grammar of the whole platform.
Sure. So the premise is that every interaction you have with an AI involves three competing priorities, right? Privacy, performance, and personalization. PPP.
Right. And in standard software today, you, the user, make these trade-offs completely blind.
Yeah, like if you want high performance and deep personalization, you are usually sacrificing your privacy. But the software hides that cost deep in a settings menu somewhere.
Exactly. It's totally opaque by design. But Quetra maps these three priorities onto a continuous geometric triangle. And what's wild is the geometry itself. The axes aren't at the corners of the triangle, they're at the midpoints of the edges.
Okay, so why does that specific geometry matter from a user perspective?
Okay, so think of a standard audio mixing board.
Like for music.
Yeah. Usually you push the bass slider up and it doesn't physically force the treble slider down. They operate completely independently of each other. But the Marshall Triangle is like a physical soundboard, where all three sliders are connected by this web of taut strings. Because of where the axes sit, you literally cannot drag your performance setting to the absolute maximum without visually watching the privacy slider get dragged down towards 0.
Oh, so it forces you to confront the structural cost of your choices in real time.
Yes, you see exactly what you're giving up.
Okay, that's actually pretty elegant. And based on where you place your settings within that triangle, the system calculates what it calls a white point, which is basically your ideal balanced center of neutral recombination.
Right.
But the defensibility of this patent really hinges on what it calculates next, the harmony index.
Which isn't just an average of your settings, right?
Crucially, no. And this is where the math actually becomes a genuine moat. The harmony index is calculated using a strict harmonic mean formula rather than your standard arithmetic mean.
Walk me through the actual math there, because if I'm a user, what is the practical difference?
Let's use real numbers. Say you have an AI agent running, and it's operating with 100% performance and 100% personalization.
Okay.
But the system realizes it has a completely compromised privacy score of just 5%.
Yikes.
Yeah. Now, if you use a standard average and arithmetic mean, you just add those up and divide by 3, the system tells you your overall score is 68%.
Which is what? A solid D+? It basically looks like a passing grade to a casual user.
Exactly. The vulnerability is hidden. You think you're generally safe. But a harmonic mean formula disproportionately weights the lowest performing component.
Okay, so what happens to the math?
If you run those same numbers, 100, 105 through a harmonic mean, that 5% privacy score acts like a black hole. It pulls the entire harmony index down to roughly 14%.
Wow.
The system registers a critical failure. You literally cannot trick the math, and therefore you cannot trick the user into thinking the system is coherent when one core value has been abandoned.
That is incredible. I mean, it mathematically prevents the AI from manipulating the user into a vulnerable state.
It does.
And this harmony index feeds directly into what I think is the single most valuable mechanism in this entire deep dive, the shared autonomy observer.
Okay, I will concede that the shared autonomy observer is where this stops being an art project and becomes highly monetizable software.
Right.
It is basically an engine that constantly monitors a metric called tension.
Tension being the distance between a user's ideal white point and what the AI is actually trying to do in the moment.
Correct. So let's say you've authorized an agent to scan your emails to find a flight receipt. The agent's semantic confidence is high, and the action aligns perfectly with your privacy settings.
So tension is low.
Exactly. The observer delegates control, and the AI operates autonomously. But the second that agent decides, it also wants to say, read your personal medical records to optimize your travel insurance.
Your privacy metric crashes.
It plummets. And because of that harmonic mean we just talked about, the tension metric spikes instantly.
Instantly. And the exact moment that tension spikes, or if the AI's semantic confidence in its own task drops, the patent dictates a mechanical response.
Which is it?
The AI is automatically stripped of its autonomous mode. It just stops executing, surfaces a natural language summary of the conflict to the user, and waits for explicit human permission to proceed.
It is a mechanical solution to the rogue AI problem.
Yes. Everyone in the industry is terrified of autonomous agents going off the rails and emptying bank accounts or deleting databases. Quetra has patented a real-time, mathematically governed throttle that forces the AI to hand agency back to the human. The second coherence is lost. I mean, that alone is worth funding.
It is an elegant solution, yes. But again, putting my venture capitalist hat back on, IP litigation is a war of attrition.
Sure.
It's translating UI tension into a mathematical formula truly novel enough to hold up in court against trillion-dollar tech conglomerate. Algorithms that throttle autonomy based on confidence thresholds, well, they already exist.
Yeah, but not with this specific UI logic.
Marshall's patent claims the specific triadic geometric relationship combined with the rhythmic pacing engine. It's clever, but defending it in court will be incredibly expensive.
But they are planting a flag. They are defining the new standard. It's like seeing the graphical desktop metaphor for the first time in the 1980s. People thought folders on a screen were a gimmick until it literally became the universal language of computing.
I appreciate the historical optimism, really. But let's look at the financial reality. We have to examine their Y Combinator application and evaluate the unit economics.
Okay, let's do it.
How does this scale? How do they acquire users? And how do they actually make money?
I mean, the numbers are fairly standard for this stage, aren't they?
In theory. They are projecting a freemium model and targeting a $12 to $18 per month prosumer tier.
Okay.
They estimate that to hit $18 million in annual recurring revenue, they need about 100,000 paid users.
Which is very doable.
The math works, but the product philosophy completely undermines it.
Oh, you're talking about the anti-gamification mandate.
I am absolutely talking about the anti-gamification mandate. Throughout the Fidelity's internal documents, there is a strict, non-negotiable constitutional rule against gamifying the interface.
Specifically regarding the Harmony Triquetra.
Yes.
Right, the Harmony Triquetra is their ultimate visual sign of system coherence. In their internal lore, it's treated almost like a sacred bestowal. It only appears on screen when the relationship between the human, the machine, and the environment is perfectly attuned.
But the product constitution explicitly bans using that symbol as a badge, a score, a reward, or a status symbol.
Right. Harmony is not performance, the style guide says.
You cannot rank users by their Harmony index. You can't offer streaks.
So why is that a deal breaker for you?
Because if you reject gamification, you are essentially rejecting the foundational mechanics of modern user retention. Think about the history of app development over the last decade.
Push notifications.
Push notifications, dopamine loops, leaderboards, artificial urgency. These are the psychological tools the software industry uses to keep people engaged.
Right.
You are asking us to fund a company that explicitly forbids its product team from using the most effective growth hacks in existence. How do you get 100,000 paying users if you refuse to hook their attention?
I hear that, but I think you're looking backward instead of forward here.
Yeah.
My contrarian thesis is that anti-gamification is actually the ultimate luxury feature in an attention-exhausted economy.
That's a beautiful thought for a meditation retreat, but we are evaluating a Y Combinator application.
No, seriously, think about the current user experience. Every app we use is just screaming at us. Unread badges, red dots, streaks we're afraid to lose. We have built an extractive attention economy populated by, as Marshall puts it, half people who treat human intelligence as training data.
Okay, that's a bit poetic, but sure.
Consumers are completely burnt out. Quetra isn't competing for attention in that noisy casino, it cultivates attunement.
So your pitch is that the lack of features is the feature.
Yes. It's an exclusive, quiet room. The value proposition isn't, look at this shiny badge. The value proposition is, we are the only software mathematically guaranteed to protect your mind, your privacy, and your agency. In a world where agentic AI is about to completely overwhelm us with automated noise, a mathematically verified sanctuary is a premium product. Professionals will absolutely pay $15 a month for the control layer that keeps the chaos out.
Okay, I see the psychological appeal of that positioning. I really do. And while I'm still highly skeptical of the zero gamification growth curve, I did find a highly strategic, incredibly shrewd architectural move
Hmm.
buried in their technical roadmap that actually supports your universal control layer
Oh,
thesis.
really? Which part?
It's in how they handle data via the node state contract.
Yeah, I saw the node state mentioned, but frankly, I was a bit lost. They say they aren't logging text prompts, they are logging intention. What does that actually mean in a database?
It means they are abstracting the input. Quetra serializes a user's intention into this data contract called node state. Now, publicly, they are being incredibly careful with their language here.
How so?
They're positioning this as a low-friction cursor-dwell abstraction layer. They frame it heavily around accessibility.
Like accommodating users who might have impaired speech or movement.
Exactly, allowing them to navigate via scanning modes or alternative inputs without needing a traditional keyboard.
Which is a fantastic ethical approach to inclusive design.
It is, but structurally, it is a Trojan horse for something much, much bigger.
Right.
By building an interface that fundamentally does not rely on typing one that relies on physiological pacing, tension monitoring, and capturing raw intent rather than keystrokes.
Wait.
Triquetra is quietly positioning itself as the baseline operating system for a post-keyboard world.
Oh my God, because eventually we won't be typing prompts. We'll be using spatial computing or eye tracking or whatever hardware comes next.
Exactly. They're keeping the architecture entirely vendor agnostic. When the hardware eventually catches up and we are navigating screens without our hands, the prompt box is dead. Quetra is building the translation layer for that future today.
They are building the vocabulary of tomorrow. It all comes back to adjusting our eyes to the brilliance of the Marshall Triangle. They are training an entire generation of users to balance complex AI ethics visually. It is a defining landmark in techno-cultural evolution.
Look, it is a brilliant long-term play, assuming they establish the Marshall Triangle as the universal visual grammar before a giant like Google just crushes them.
Sure.
But that is a massive assumption. They have to survive the short term. They have to acquire those 100,000 users without traditional growth hacks, relying purely on the appeal of their philosophy and the utility of the shared autonomy observer.
While generating zero monthly recurring revenue today.
Yes, exactly.
Which is exactly why they need our pre-seed capital right now. We have to act fast before others see this once-in-a-generation opportunity. We are learning a new vocabulary, and I really believe we need to write the check.
And my grounded view remains highly cautious. The harmonic mean math preventing manipulation, undeniably solid. The patent claims around the shared autonomy observer are genuinely clever, and the node state architecture positioning them for a post-keyboard world is a fantastic moat.
But
But pre-seed money carries massive risk when a solo founder is prioritizing a constitutional philosophy over immediate, aggressive revenue metrics. It's a visionary leap, but it is a financially terrifying one.
so, to you, our partner listening,
Right.
where do you stand? Do you write the check because this is a monumental leap that redefines human-computer interaction?
Or do you pass because the lack of traditional growth metrics and the heavy Middle-earth style philosophical lore make it just too risky for a traditional VC fund?
It truly is the ultimate test of our investment thesis. Are we here to fund standard sauce blueprints, or are we here to fund a true paradigm shift?
Well, we'll leave you with one final provocative thought to chew on before the partners meeting.
Yeah.
Let's say Quetra succeeds. Let's say the Marshall Triangle actually becomes the universal, standard way humans balance privacy, performance, and personalization with artificial intelligence.
Okay.
If that happens, Triquetra effectively becomes the psychological gatekeeper between human intent and the entire digital world.
It's a staggering implication. In a future entirely run by autonomous agents, perhaps the ultimate unbreakable monopoly won't belong to the companies building the AI models.
It will belong to the interface that measures our harmony with them.
Wow. We thought we were looking at architectural blueprints for a software company, but we might just be looking at the blueprints for human agency itself.
Let us know where you land.
We'll see you at the table.